some best avenues towards getting there, and then we'll close out with Q&A. So a brief, really single slide about Intelenet. If you're not familiar with who we are, Intelenet is a management consulting and Microsoft-centric technology services firm. The avenue of how we go to market really is about strategy leading to process and then technology. A lot of other groups here in the industry take a technology-first approach towards Office 365. What we're trying to be doing is to look at this from a strategic avenue, and then how that might play into overall change management, training, organizational readiness beyond the technology as well. We've been around for about 20 years, celebrating our 20th year next year, serving a lot of clients all throughout the U.S. and the East Coast, and have worked with Microsoft Online since its inception, even the BPOS days 3 or 4 years back. Having deployed over 100,000 different seats to almost all industries, about 60 different countries with Office 365, small companies of 20 to 30 people, up to those clients with 50,000 plus seats. This is something key to what we do and what we have been doing for quite some time. So with that, I wanted to be able to move forward and go into a few different polls just to get a sense from each of you on the phone. We probably have about almost 50 or so folks on the webinar at this point. And I wanted to get a sense from each of you. You can respond on your phone or laptop or whatever device you might have. The idea of how familiar are you at this point with Office 365 as well. Some maybe a first time, some may be running it already or purchased it. We'll let this run for about another 10, 15 seconds, just to be able to get a sense for where the groups are. And then from there, we'll open it up after that. Again, these are, there's only 2 polls that we'll go through. They're anonymous, obviously. Any of the questions that you might have, or if you're having difficulties, as Laura stated earlier, please send that through the chat panel as your lines are muted until we get to the Q&A section. So we'll continue to respond to chats as appropriate. So that's the first one. Thanks for that. Most of you have some familiarity to some degree. Appreciate your time. Second one is, why are you considering Office 365? This is really the business drivers that you're looking at within your avenue, within your company. And we'll again leave this open for a while. There may be, these are single checkboxes, so I know that in some cases it may be multiple drivers that you're looking at, which is fine. Continue to just maybe select the one that's the key driver within your business case. But this is the second of 2 polls that we'll have to get a sense for drivers. And it looks, for the most part, like the consideration of cost, I guess, and additional capacities are coming in as a top 2, and like a horse race. There goes additional capabilities. So, yeah, great. I appreciate your time on that. And obviously, there's a lot of different factors to why folks are considering this in different stages. Looks like we have folks that are already in production pilots, some that have maybe already gone to some degree with maybe an element of Office 365 based on some of the folks that I know on the call, as well as some that are simply looking at it. Whatever stage you're at, we appreciate your time and really interest in Office 365. With that, I want to bring us back to the next step, and we'll get into our presentation. So I'll turn it over to Lee, so we'll go through strategy elements and the context of Office 365.
Great, thank you, Mark. We're going to talk about what Office 365 is and kind of give you an overview of what the capabilities of this platform offers, as well as what kind of things you can expect when you move to Office 365. The 4 primary productivity services that Office 365 is focused on is business email, document sharing, web conferencing, and providing a familiar interface that your user community is comfortable using. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the business email. Exchange Online actually reduces the impact of one of IT's most time-consuming applications, and that's email. So managing and monitoring email, managing storage in email is a really big challenge that IT departments face. When you use Exchange Online and Office 365, you have a partner in Microsoft that is managing the hardware, the backup, the storage, the disaster recovery, and is focused on managing your email system in a way that most IT organizations could not afford to. In Office 365, users receive 25 gigabytes of mailbox storage, and kiosk users, which we will define later in the presentation, receive 1 gig of online storage in Exchange Online. Another benefit of Exchange Online is the antivirus and anti-spam filtering that's included. The benefit of this is that all of that processing happens outside of your environment before your users actually see email and interact with it. So having that cloud-based environment streamlines and the performance enhancement that it offers with regards to running Exchange really cannot be matched. The next element is SharePoint Online. If you're not running SharePoint or you're not familiar with it, SharePoint provides a really strong foundation for enterprise collaboration. So managing items on SharePoint, such as intranet portals, allows your team to share and socialize documents and share information, status reports, and things like blogs and wikis and surveys can be done as well to allow your users to have one area that they visit for the most recent information that they need in order to do their job or to facilitate a project or work within their department. Again, this is all online storage that's managed by Microsoft, so Office 365 provides that benefit where it allows your IT department to focus primarily on what is unique and special about your business rather than managing the ping, power, and pipe for the servers that are in your data center. In SharePoint Online, the company receives 10 gigabytes of storage with 500 megs per user, which you are able to increase through purchasing additional storage. Next is web conferencing, and web conferencing is provided by Lync, which is what you're participating on. The presentation is being done via Lync at the moment. So Lync allows you to have real-time collaboration, instant messaging, audio chat, video chat, which this is really beneficial when you have users that are remote and you have a traveling sales force. Even within a large office space between multi-floors, Lync can provide that value of that real-time connection between employees. The last element is the familiar interface, and so Microsoft Office is on most computers these days, and managing Office in the cloud is a little bit unique and different from the way it's managed presently. You have the ability to have use the installation of Office that you already have, or you can sign up for a subscription-based service called Office Professional Plus. And what that offers you is an Office installation that installs native on the desktop that works on a per license basis based on the number of licenses that you have for Office 365. For example, the Office installation calls home and validates that a valid license exists, and that's what allows the user to continue to use Office. So this is a full installation of Office on the desktop. The other is an option that offers a lightweight version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote, which is the Office web application. And the Office web apps give you a full fidelity type of feel within the browser window so that users have an ability to use the Microsoft Office applications regardless of what type of computer or what flavor of computer they're using. This is the access is done through the browser entirely, so access within compatible browsers, which includes the Safari browser, Firefox, Chrome, and of course Internet Explorer is a full, rich type of experience that allows you to originate or modify content that's stored in your Office 365 environment. Office 365 is used in many different size companies, both small and mid-sized companies, as well as Fortune 500 companies have decided to partner with Microsoft and leverage this powerful platform to do business. For example, Starbucks Coffee is on Office 365, as is Coca-Cola Enterprises, which Intelenet assisted in getting into the cloud in 2010. These are large companies, small companies, all see a benefit and a value in using the Office 365 platform. As you can see, 90% of Office 365 customers are small to mid-sized businesses, and these may or may not be companies that have IT departments internally, but they have decided to move to the cloud to ease the burden of their infrastructure, and their IT organization is able to focus on business drivers rather than application support. We're going to talk about the key business benefits now. The key business benefits being anywhere access, working together, how it eases the burden that IT has with regards to current day systems, and how the best value can be realized using Office 365. Anywhere access refers to the same capabilities that many corporate environments enjoy today, but Office 365 offers the hosted Exchange Online while offering a highly secure email that businesses have previously maybe experienced and definitely expect. Highly secure email is done by SSL connections through browsers, as well as through connections with mobile phones and mobile devices that allow you to receive your email in a secure manner, so that both sending and receiving is encrypted. Next, contacts, meetings, and calendar, again because we're using Microsoft Exchange and Exchange Online, along with a client, whether it's mobile or whether it's Outlook on your desktop. You can take your contacts, your meetings, your calendars with you, making those items portable, and you're able to connect up to the Office 365 environment through HTTPS, for example, to send and receive information with the Office 365 environment. Offline access can be accomplished through the use of SharePoint workspaces, for example, so you can take documents offline from SharePoint Online, work on those documents, and then synchronize the changed documents back to the environment once network connection is restored. So that offline access allows you to leverage the rich experience that the Microsoft Office locally installed has, while interacting and connecting to the Office 365 environment, able to socialize those documents with the rest of the team or a company. And next, you can access Office 365 without a VPN, which is really the bane of existence for our user communities. They've generally voted that they don't like having to run a VPN client prior to connecting to the internal environment. But as IT professionals, we know that's the most secure way of connecting to an internal environment. But with Office 365, the users don't feel the burden of having a VPN client that they have to run. So it eases their connection to the Office 365 environment, as well as Office 365 having SSL offers that secure communication with the servers that they need to send information to and receive information from. Moving to working together and sharing know-how, one of the more popular features these days is to have within an organization is to have a knowledge base. And so having a central location where information can be stored and leveraged is very powerful for companies. And so SharePoint Online offers that capability, allowing you to build a centralized knowledge base to share information and to break apart silos, either within a geography, within a country, or within across departments. So SharePoint Online allows you to socialize information easily. Lync allows you to have real-time communications with individuals within your company. One of the things that we say at Intelenet is when you don't know who to ask, you can post that question on the SharePoint environment. When you know who to ask, you can connect to that person through Lync. So those two things, having a static knowledge-based environment as well as the real-time collaboration and connection offered by Lync, is a very powerful capability that changes the way that your user community works. Versioning is also improved by using SharePoint. So whenever you receive documents and you receive them either as an attachment in email or need to have the most current version of a document, companies find that to be a challenge by email when the only communication mechanism is emailing documents as attachments. Using SharePoint Online and using Office 365's tools, you can use the versioning capability, storing information in a central location that everyone has access to, so that people can access that information easily and always know that they're getting the most recent information and the most up-to-date information that they have access to. Next is using SharePoint Online or Office 365 as an extranet. This is very powerful for you interacting with clients, for interacting with maybe your vendors. Some companies, for example, have used this with their outside agency with regards to marketing. So when a marketing comp is produced, a marketing vendor can place that on the extranet, having all of the internal personnel notified by alert that a new comp is available to look at. So having extranet access for your clients and your vendors is very powerful and can be done very, very easily with Office 365, given that it is already in the cloud and is accessible by anyone with an internet connection. Lastly, a powerful item for improved tracking is Office 365 offers this one centralized area where information and knowledge can be shared. So, for example, having project statuses, allowing everyone to contribute to the information that is produced and is housed within Office 365 can really increase the connectedness that people feel both to one another as well as to projects and tasks that they need to complete for their department. With that, I'm going to turn the baton over to Chris.
Thanks, Lee. I appreciate that. So let's talk about how does Office 365 make IT easier. The first area is in being familiar with the product, and that is Office. The Office suite is familiar to most of your users today, and that helps in that with Office 365, the versioning is all the same. There's no more, somebody's got Office 2003, somebody's got 2007, so now we're at a consistent level. All users are using the same version. What this does for support is make it easier when a question comes in to answer. It's now you're looking at one version, as well as it helps with minimizing the training for the users to have to go through. So then let's look at high availability. Microsoft has geo-redundant data centers all around the world to make sure that your data is highly available and replicated between different sites. And these sites are not only redundant, but they're also highly secure. They provide disaster recovery, and they can do more from a perspective than your own environment by giving, instead of backups and disaster recovery and the redundancy in having power supplies and so forth. So let's move on to easy integration. With Office 365, you can manage the environment through a single console, and that includes both the Exchange, Lync, and SharePoint Online. This makes it easier for IT administrators to configure and allocate license through that one single interface. And now you don't have to manage servers on site. So before you had an infrastructure to manage SharePoint, to manage Exchange, and to manage Lync, and now all that's been moved and is now on Microsoft's premise. So that allows your resources that we're managing, those resources now focus more on needs of the business, and so you can reallocate those services to them. And lastly, under Easy IT is seamless upgrade. The upgrade process of keeping up with antivirus, anti-spam, the latest edition of Office has all been taken off of the IT staff and put onto the Microsoft side. So that's all automated on the Microsoft side, and it gets updated with the latest roll-ups. So what makes Office 365 the best value for you? Let's look at low upfront cost. So at a simplistic state, no hardware. And then there's no hardware maintenance. And then the idea that your users are already familiar with the Office suite so that there's no extra training and education involved in that. And then we move to predictable pricing. So now you have a means to have a monthly cost that is predictable every month based on the license that you choose. And as your workers need more services, you can expand or contract those as you need. So it's a pay the services as you need and as you go along the way. So if you have seasonal workers, for instance, you can expand your license out to cover those and easily you take those back at the end of the season. And then let's get into per user license. Most of the time in the IT world, you were buying license based on, I need a license for the Office suite, and that was per user, and you installed it. Now it's per user license, in which case it's not a device license anymore, and that means that it's easier to track that licensing through Office 365, and that users are able to, not only that, add 5 devices to that license. So if they've got, their home computer to add Office to, their work computer, so when they're out, no longer do you have to have a license for each of those. All right, easy to scale. And this one is one of the most important and critical points to the value of Office 365. You can instantly add users to your site, and then they have access to SharePoint, Exchange, Lync, and the full Office suite, depending on what license level you choose. And then you may only need kiosk users, so that they don't need the Office suite. They can go to any browser and be able to manage their email or look at the SharePoint site from there. So with that, I will pass over the pricing conversation to Piyush.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Piyush Sagi from Microsoft. As Chris mentioned, Office 365 offers significant benefits in terms of simplifying your technological landscape, your infrastructure, but there's another dimension, which is the economics of cloud services in general and Office 365 in particular, where you see significant benefits as well. We offer several different options and plans for organizations of different sizes, organizations of different employee segment compositions. So in general, for an organization that has, let's say, a 20-30 of information workers and kiosk workers, for information workers, these are individuals that have a dedicated PC, a laptop, or a desktop, and they are sitting in front of a computer most of the day. So these information workers are pretty much like Chris and myself and most of you who are attending this web meeting today. We have enterprise plans for information workers, and I'll show you in a minute or so what some of those plans look like. For kiosk workers, and these are workers that we define as those that do not have access to a PC. These individuals are not sitting in front of a PC all day long. They are retail associates in a shop floor environment, or they're manufacturing plant workers in a manufacturing company. So these individuals, they're not sitting in front of a PC. Their needs are simpler than those of typical information worker, and so we offer lower priced options for kiosk workers, so you can give them the right functionality without overwhelming them at the right price points. We also have some offers and options for seasonal workers, for companies that have seasonality in their workforce, as well as those that have remote workers. On the next slide, If we can fast forward to the next one. Thanks. So on this slide, you'll notice we have some different plans. On the left-hand side, we have our enterprise plans, which are typically for knowledge workers. One of our plans on the enterprise side, which starts at about $8 per user per month. So that gives you Exchange Online, the 25 gig mailbox. It gives you access to SharePoint as your intranet platform, and it gives you access to links. So for some percentage of workers, that is all that they need. We have an option, a plan for them. For those employees that need Office in the cloud, in addition to basic email and collaboration capabilities, that's where plan E2 comes into the picture. And E3 is the one which also gives you the 5 copies of Office that you can download and install on up to 5 devices that you as an individual have. On the right-hand side, there's some information on the kiosk plans. There's a lightweight K1 plan that gives you Exchange Online, and it gives you access to a SharePoint portal. The K2 plan also gives you access to Office web apps in the cloud in addition to Exchange and SharePoint. A few other things to keep in mind here. One is the pricing shown on this slide. It is the same as that on our website. So if you go to office365.com, you can get a list of all the different plans and options. We also offer standalone services. So if somebody's only interested in Exchange Online and nothing else, that is an option as well. In terms of procurement vehicles or procurement channels, there are 2 channels available. One is our website, and then the other is working directly with your local Microsoft team, your local Microsoft account manager. If your organization has an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, wherein you've traditionally purchased other software on-premise and Windows and such, that usually gets you the biggest discounts on cloud services as well. I'll be here after the presentation for any Q&A, so if you have any pricing related questions, we'll take those towards the end.
Thanks, Piyush. So let's talk about how we're going to get to Office 365 and what that path really looks like. So at Intelenet, we've got years of experience helping clients transition and transform their business to meet the business needs that they have today. And in this case, we're discussing Office 365 and how we're going to get there. And I'm sure that's on most of your minds today. What steps do I need to take? How do I make a successful migration to keep the impact to my end users down and make it as budget-friendly and economical as possible? So with that in mind, we've developed this 5-day outline of a framework to address just that issue that you have to deal with. So let's take a look at day 1, the discovery process. And really, as the name discovery means, we're actually looking at what you currently have in your environment today. And we really want to get into what your network looks like. Let's start there at the base and look and see what the topology looks like. And then taking that topology and looking at the bandwidth that's available between your site and the internet and the internet to your end users. And then looking at the utilization on that network. That helps lay the groundwork for how well Office 365 will meet your expectations. And then we look at DNS, because one of the critical components in today's internet-based, cloud-based society is DNS and its functionality. And having to know what the architecture looks like for your business, what the primary and secondary and stub zones look like, all critical components to making Office 365 a successful story. And then we want to take that down into what your Active Directory looks like today and its health. Is it having problems replicating? Are there issues with it? Those all affect the user experience with Office 365, and we want to make sure that we capture that information so that we can put together the best strategy plan for you. And then we want to look at what messaging system you're in today, be it Google, Exchange, Lotus Notes, GroupWise. Yes, there's still some GroupWise users out there today, believe it or not. And we want to look at that architecture for those messaging environments you have today. And most importantly, we want to see how large or how much data is out there that needs to be moved to the cloud. Huge amount of data out there. We'll talk a little bit in a minute about some compliance issues that you're going to have to deal with as far as archiving and so forth. And then let's understand what it's actually going to take to get to Office 365 by running the readiness tools that actually point out what issues might be in the environment going forward. So let's go on to day two. Day two is actually working with the business leadership to come up with what drives the business and what the vision of the business is. Where do you want to go? What do you want Office 365 to do for your business today? We took a poll earlier that talked about cost savings or added features and so forth. So what is it that you want the business to get out of Office 365? And then let's get into understanding what the legal requirements for your business are and possible regulatory compliances around things such as HIPAA and SOX that are on everybody's mind today. And many companies have outlined service level agreements or service level objectives that need to be addressed to make sure they align with the Office 365 offering. And most importantly, how soon do you want to get to Office 365? The business needs to get there tomorrow, right? So these all help define what the success criteria for Office 365 are. And that's important to understand what it's going to take to be a success in migrating to Office 365. And one of the other areas we want to look at is what business resources are available for the Office 365 and how much of a budget do you have out there for it. Day three, the technical alignment. This is where we get into understanding technically what the environment looks like. And this is where it gets into important to understand the users, what their demographics are, where they're located. If it's a worldwide company, what time zones they're in, what's the impact to that end user when they're going to be able to be moved and migrated, right? Because there's a short period of time that the user may not be able to access their mail during the migration, depending on their background as far as what version of Outlook they're running. And so we need to understand that. And so is there a particular order the users have to go in? You probably don't move the executives first. Instead, you move IT or some pilot group of users. So we need to understand all of that. And then at a basic level, what services do you want to provide those users? Is there a subset that you want to provide just a service to, or do you want to provide the full suite to? And then some of the other decisions are they rich clients or are they kiosks? So some of those are the technical decisions, as well as are there any mobile users out there? I'm sure there are. Everybody's got a mobile device, right? So then we need to understand what mobile devices are out there and what the demographics around those mobile devices look like. And then look at what the current staff is and how much they can support during a migration. If you've got hundreds of thousands to move or thousands to move, you don't want to move everybody overnight. Your help desk might get slammed the next morning, right? So you've got to help balance that out. And we at Intellinet have a vast experience and knowledge in helping balance that part out. And one important piece that we're seeing more and more of today is how you integrate in with ID management and provisioning processes. And that's critical to make Office 365 successful in that when you license it out, you have to script the part out to license the user account out to the different services that you're going to make available in Office 365. So it's critical to have all those components working together and understanding what those components are. So let's move to day 4, the operations. What happens in the operational is, let's understand, can we do this in a cutover fashion where it's just, weekend you come in, they're on-prem, next Monday the user comes in and they're on the cloud. Makes it easy and simple. But more than likely, you're going to be in what's known as a stage migration, which means that you're probably going to need the use of a hybrid solution or a hybrid server. And I know that's a big word out there today, is understanding what that hybrid server means to your environment, right? Because that's a server you're actually inserting in your environment that talks to the cloud. So needing to understand that and needing it for understanding the applications that you have out there, you may need to have a hybrid server. And so understanding those dependencies needs to be captured here so that you understand that. The other thing is looking at the risk to the business and what the mitigating circumstances may be to mitigate all those risks, right? Because you don't want to impact the end user. And a critical component that I've seen time and time again missed is communications. Understanding when to communicate to the end user. Best practices say, start with some general note out to them 30 days out, 2 weeks, a week, the next day, just so that the end user has a set expectation of what is getting ready to happen. The end goal here is that they see nothing. Basically, they come in, they leave one day, come in the next day, and boom, they're working just like they were before. But we want to communicate that to them, right? And then we want that user experience to be enhanced with Office 365. And so one thing we want to look at, too, is what change management process is out there for the steps that need to be taken in order to deploy Office 365. So we've talked about 4 days of intense discovery, business, technical, and operational gathering. We've gathered a lot of data. And basically what we've done is we've got this framework of data that says, all right, how do I get there? And that's the main piece of the conversation we're talking about. What's that strategy look like? And really, what we're trying to do here is show you that at Intelenet in particular, we have a process that we go through with the customer that's tailor-fitted to actually walk you through that process and come up with that strategy and understand your business, because really it's about building that relationship and understanding your business to make you successful in your business in the deployment of Office 365. And then at the end of this, we're going to conclude with a proof of concept, which is a standalone Office 365, so that when we go away, you can sit there and play with Office 365, understand, you kick the wheels, if you want to call it that, and give you access to the Exchange and SharePoint and Lync so that you can get a look and feel for that and understand it. So I just want to sum up what we've got here is a full framework for you to come in and let's build a strategy to put you on the right path to a successful migration, and we'll make that path based on the needs of your company. So with that, I'd like to open it up for questions and answers.
I think we're going to unmute the line here.
You are now muted. You are no longer muted. All guests have been unmuted. You will now rejoin the meeting.
Are there any, and this is, sorry, Jeff Hegedus from Duke Clinical Research, are there any white papers on ROI for transitioning online farms to the cloud?
Yeah, this is Lee. The ROI specifically, there is a slide at the end of our slide deck that you'll receive tomorrow that has a listing of white papers, of calculations of ROI, and different aspects to Office 365. That there should be plenty of information to address ROI issues there.
Great, thank you.
We also go through an ROI calculator, high-level TCO model within the 3-day, 5-day overviews as well.
Marvelous. Thank you.
Okay, we've received some other questions. Can I use my enterprise agreement DDPS days for the trial version of Office 365 or the alignment workshop?
Yeah, actually, you can. That's for customers with an EA with Microsoft already, as Piyush alluded to. There are 1-day, 3-day, 5-day, 10-day avenues to use your DDPS days towards several avenues. It includes as well Office 365 for that. The 3 orange boxes within the banner that Chris had talked about, that represents the 3-day model that we leverage with Microsoft's accelerators, as well as the strategy and definition avenues for that as well.
Another question we received, is the trial version from Microsoft something that we could move to production, or is it a sandbox?
So this is Lee again. This question of sandbox versus production, one of the things that is best practices that we recommend is that any type of trial or proof of concept environment that you create for users to try the environment, to kind of kick the tires, or to do evaluations of whether this will work in your environment, our recommendation is that you do that in a sandbox environment, or you do that in an environment that will never be moved to the production environment. You want something that's pristine that goes into production. For example, just one of the many points is when you integrate your Active Directory environment with Office 365, that is very, very difficult to undo and has many technical challenges associated with it. So we recommend during the proof of concept and using a sandbox environment that there not be Active Directory integration, that only be when you move to the production-ready environment. So our recommendation is not to move from proof of concept to production.
Yeah, Lee, one of the comments I want to make on that, too, is being extra cautious with the naming convention that you use when you set up that tenant, right? Because you can only set up that name once, and so that's one of the big key areas that we caution users on when we're setting up a trial version.
Can Office 365 integrate with Google Apps, especially the calendar and other collaboration features?
Okay. Yes, and it depends. I hate to ask that question and answer it that way, but there are portions of it that will integrate with the calendar. It is not easy to do, and it isn't a solid, but it will work with the calendar portion.
Is the monthly subscription pricing inclusive of all MS licenses, or is this on top of EA price?
Piyush, you want to take that?
Yes, this is Piyush. We offer 2 different options, 2 different models to existing EA customers. You have an option to either convert or transition your on-premise licensing to a cloud services model. So you can either do that, or you can keep your on-premise licensing as it is and get cloud services at a pretty significant discount. There are pros and cons to both approaches. Different organizations choose different options, and that's a discussion that I or your local Microsoft team can have with you and explain the pros and cons of each option.
Another question that came through, what do you say to combat the question in regards to the risk of users who cannot use Office 365 if company internet pipe goes down?
One of the challenges, one of the benefits actually of Office 365 is that you are moving a lot of infrastructure and a lot of monitoring and management outside of your environment as far as servers and mail servers and SharePoint are concerned, that transitions really to the more minimal impact of managing and monitoring your internet connection. So this is very important that your internet connection be diverse, maybe using diverse COs, and using maybe even 2 different companies if you need that much of connectivity and that consistent of a connection. One of the things that you can state about internet connectivity is this, while it may be a single point of failure for an internet connection, maybe to an individual company, remote users and the number of users that maybe work off-site or in different locations may have different internet connections. So that diversity ensures that people will have connectivity to Office 365. The other is that there is a capability of having documents on, for example, let's say they're working on documents, having documents on SharePoint Online. Those can be taken offline and made available and worked with directly on a workstation so that if internet connectivity is having connection problems, those people can still be productive and just upload back to the SharePoint Online environment once it becomes available again.
What level of customization is available within Office 365 SharePoint? Can any third-party features be used?
So third-party tools, this is an area where SharePoint Online, specifically SharePoint Online, running third-party tools has not as fully featured as when you run locally. But there is a solution for this need, which is a hybrid environment. So running, for example, some companies we've worked with, we've talked about the majority of the organization is leveraging the SharePoint Online for their primary storage location for their documents and for the SharePoint specific uses, while having a SharePoint server online or on-site that is running third-party applications such as BrightWorks, project management, such as Nintex workflow, and some of those things. There is a movement by Microsoft, and it's a very strong focus of Microsoft in Office 365 to make those third-party tools and to certify those third-party tools to work in an online environment so that it ensures consistent uptime of the servers and that you get a good user experience out of having third-party applications in the cloud. Piyush, do you want to add anything to that? Do you have any comments about third-party applications in Office 365?
One recent observation I can share is that with the SharePoint and some of the upgrades that come in the February-March timeframe, a lot of third parties are beginning to embrace the new app model for SharePoint Online. Companies like Bamboo and Nintex, they have connectors now that allow you to use their services either in the cloud or in a hybrid environment. So a lot is changing pretty significantly in the SharePoint app development space, and I would ask everyone attending this webinar to do an online search and read a bit more about the new app model for SharePoint, because that is what will dictate what you'll be doing with SharePoint in the next 5 years or so.
And that's a great point, Piyush. We talk about that on our strategy avenue, not only how to integrate it within your corporate environment, but trends in the marketplace. We go over some of those avenues of where that is heading, and that's covered in the Day 5 model.
Aside from sharing of files, is there the ability to transfer data between local intranet applications and the 365 applications, or are they in a separate bubble?
Well, there's so many different applications and so many different interactions of data. I would say that I'm assuming that you're talking essentially maybe about having a data warehouse or cube farm on site or on-prem while having Office 365 off. What we would probably do is in the 5-day evaluation, that would be a big topic of discussion. I think it's something that has too many variables maybe to answer definitively here. But as Piyush was just mentioning, there is an increased focus on making available additional capabilities that interacts with corporate environments between Office 365 and an on-premise solution, such as maybe a SQL Server or some type of a BI tool.
So with that last question, we're going to wrap things up. Again, I appreciate each of your time on the phone and on link today. Some next steps for each of you on the phone. Again, there's an opportunity to sign up if you have not already. We'd encourage you to do so for a online version, a free trial for 30 days. You can go to Intelenet.com/cloud to be able to do that. We will be sending out this PowerPoint deck to each of you after the seminar, either later on today or tomorrow morning. Obviously, you may have been drawn in for the content or maybe the idea of winning a Surface. Either way, we're glad that you're here. What we're going to do is just to your ticket raffle into the raffle is the event survey. So we will send this out here briefly, and Laura has just actually posted that on the chat window. So we will send this out as well, but write that down or click on it just to make sure that that's live. And then after that, we have 1 hour to be able to have that event survey in. We will then have a raffle later on today, and we'll notify the winner probably in the note out to everybody. The last avenue for those that were interested in that 5-day cloud readiness workshop, we would love to speak with you about strategy and really what this means to your environment. And so all those that sign up between today and about a month out, January 18th, which is a end of week there in mid-January, we will have a second Surface that we will be raffling off, and it will be for all those that decide to join into that type of a readiness workshop. So feel free to contact somebody at Intelenet, your account executive, or Laura, Lee, Chris, or myself. We'd be happy to talk with you about that. And so with that, I think we'll close out. Again, we appreciate your time today. We'll continue to have further webinars as it relates to other avenues within the cloud environment, Intune, Azure, further discussions around strategy and capitalizing on this move to the cloud. We appreciate your time and wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays going forward. Thanks so much. With that, we'll sign off, and until next time, enjoy your afternoon.